All right, let's make a wrench for this dummy 13 crash test model. And it's going to go into his hand there. And so we'll need a couple of dimensions as you see here, but we'll come back to those in just a minute. Let's get our application loaded first of all. And that would be SketchUp free. So when you go to this site, you can click on here, SketchUp free, and then say start modeling after you log in using your Google account. Then you want to start a new sketch, and we'll just make those rectangle and circle to get started. So the first thing you want to do is probably just take this eraser over here and just mark through that guy right there. And we're going to make a rectangle using this tool down on the bottom. Let's click in the origin and then drag out to there, but don't click again. Look in the lower right-hand corner and you see it's got dimension in inches and feet. So I'm going to hit escape because we don't want to work in that model or that unit rather. We want to go over to model info and let's change the units down here to millimeters instead. Because what we saw in our diagram a moment ago is that this right here was in millimeters. And taking a closer look at that, you'll see it's 6 millimeters by 3 millimeters. So let's do that one instead. Again with the rectangle, starting at the origin, click, drag out, but do not click again. And then you can see in the lower right-hand corner, it's got a lot of millimeters down there. You can either click down there, or I think you can just tab in that direction, or just start typing. So I'm going to type in 6, and you can see it down there on the lower right-hand side, millimeters, comma, 3 millimeters. And you see that the rectangle pretty much disappeared, and that's because it's really small here in the origin. To make it visible, you want to go under this option right here, the triple dot, and select Zoom Extents. And it brings it in. And you can use your scroll wheel to scroll a little bit closer to this. Now, the other thing that we need here is to have that circle in the middle. And you see that the circle has a diameter of 4, but SketchUp works in radius instead, so we're going to need to type it 2. Let's see if we can find a way to get this pretty close to the center. Maybe when we hover over this edge, can we find the word? Oh, there's the center. And can we find the midpoint going the other way, like right here? There's the midpoint. So I guess somewhere around here in the center is where we want to be. And we're going to pull out like that, but then only just have it so that it's, let's see, 2 millimeters. And I type that down at the bottom. And so there is our shape. Now what you can do is hold down the middle mouse wheel and it'll let you orbit over the top of it like this. I'm clicking and dragging. And so this is my basic handle right here. So I don't need that piece or this piece. I wonder if it'll let me erase it. Let's grab the eraser tool, erase this, that, this, and that. And you can see that even those lines out there can be removed. And let's see if it looks like the shape that we're supposed to be going for as far as the handle. And sure enough, you can see the flat side here and a curved side right there. And so we only looked at this side. You can see a side view of it here. So now the next thing to do is to put the tool part of the wrench out here on the end of the handle. So let's try that next. But I guess, you know what? First, we better extrude that out a distance of 30 millimeters so that we can see the handle itself. So we want to use the push-pull tool for that one, and then pull this up just a little bit. You notice it typed in 1 millimeter. I wonder if it's going to let me type over that. 30? Okay, yeah. So it did let me change that to 30. When in doubt, just hit Control Z. And let's go ahead and zoom extents again like that. And you can orbit over to kind of see the top of it. Now, the next thing we want to do is put a circle out here on the end somehow and use that to make our tool. Let's grab the circle tool and make sure it's oriented so that it's along this axis. And then you want to drag out in this direction like this. So you don't want to go horizontal. You want to have it be a vertical circle. And if we look at the size of those circles, it was going to be 8 inches or 8 millimeters in diameter. So that means it needs to be 4 over here for radius. Let's just type in 4, see what it looks like. And so since it looks correct, we're good to go on that. Now, if you orbit around the other side, you'll notice that we haven't really extruded it out into that proper dimension just yet. So what we can do then is, I guess we could do two things. One of them is, see if I can lower it down. Is it shift and then pull down? Yeah. Holding down the shift key and the middle mouse wheel lets you go up and down. We can lower this one down because now I'm noticing that it's a little bit too high. So I don't want to go all the way, beyond that, but right here is probably good enough. You see it's limited. Actually tells me that. That's kind of interesting. And then we can pull this out in this direction and look at that. We got the end of our wrench. Okay, that's actually a lot better than I had done before. So I'm kind of glad I found that feature. The next thing we want to do is draw that hexagon on the surface. And that's probably going to be under here. And the default, as you can see down here on the lower right-hand side, is 6 sides. So we try to find the midpoint of that somehow. I don't know if it's going to let us just find it. Do we click on the outside? It almost highlights right there. Okay, it looks like it did it. And I like to have it maybe about this size here with the flat part going outward. Let's see if we can do that. Now, if we don't like this, we can always hit Control Z later on and undo this later. Let's make a line so that we can cut part of this circle off. I want to make this line continue out until it hits that part of the circle. I'm going to make this line continue out until it hits the circle as well. And let's see if we can just push those out of the way by grabbing the push-pull tool, moving this down. I'm going to type in 3 millimeters. That erases it. Push this down 3 millimeters and erased it. And look at that. We have our completed wrench. So that's the basics about how you get started with SketchUp using um, the push-pull tool, as well as rectangle, circle, and so forth. All right, this should be a good introduction. Now I challenge you to make other things like a sword or a hat or a hammer for your Dummy 13 model. All right, feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions about these things here, and we'll be happy to help you get started with making accessories for your Dummy 13.